Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. My name is Anastasia, and I'm here to talk about the most exciting thing in the world for me, and hopefully for humanity. And I just want to say that it's been, the past few years, it has been the most exciting time of human history. Like all these advancements of AI and space exploration has been driving tremendous growth. And I believe that you guys are here, architects, are the ones going to drive the change. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure we use that power responsibly and continue driving that innovation. And so, like you guys, I started as an architect. I studied urban planning, and but in 2016, I came across this field called space architecture, and I just fell in love with it. I got so truly obsessed about learning how the built environment will be the future of humans, of human civilization. Not just in space, other universes, right? But at that time in 2016, the field has been so different. So in 2016, it's been driven by mainly conceptual designs, a lot of research papers, a lot of studies, the O'Neill colonies in space, the huge, structures in space that there's going to be thousands of people living. Yet, in the recent years, the industry has changed drastically. And the reason why, there's many reasons for that. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this presentation. One second. And so here, I would like to present this quest into the unknown, the question to what if we actually can build for human spaceflight? What if we can actually not only think about these amazing, interesting concepts about these beautiful houses on the moon and Mars and in low Earth orbit, but what if it's actually feasible to build there? And so, as Paul introduced me, my name is Anastasia. I am the founder and CEO of Stellar Amenities. We are a company based in San Francisco, but we originally were founded in Los Angeles in 2019 to focus on advancing human space flight through architecture. So just a brief overview before I get started with the presentation. We are a specialized team of 30+ contractors working in the field of space architecture, and we get that expertise from the specialized contractors from SpaceX, NASA, Stanford University, MIT, and etc. And we have a portfolio of 15 NASA-compliant products for human spaceflight, from autonomous decision-making for astronauts' operations in space to wellness solutions for extended missions. And we've been also publishing research on human spaceflight, and we also chaired space architecture sessions and major space conferences. But lately, in the last 3 years, we focused on the market analysis and strategic insights, because we really witnessed the growth of space architecture that is becoming less about conceptual development and more about strategic positioning. And we also have a track record of securing multi-million-dollar contracts and developing qualified pipelines for space architecture projects. This is just some of the projects we've done. And we had this amazing opportunity last year to test one of our solutions in zero-G flight. And that's actually me flying. And as an architect, I felt just amazing to understand the environment much, much better, because as we all know, for you to truly design something very special, you have to be in that environment, spend some time on the site. So that was a huge privilege for me to fly with MIT on that flight, testing one of our solutions. And we also worked on outfitting a Soviet-flown space station that is shown right here. It's not really sexy, but we worked on retrofitting all the hardware into something that can be used in space. Another project we also worked is deep pressure therapy in space, helping astronauts to have a better sleep, using this really interesting proven technology for autistic people, which is all about this pressure squeeze on your body. And it turns out it's really effective for astronauts as well to have a better sleep, because 95% of astronauts have a hard time falling asleep because there's no applied pressure on the body. And we also worked on the space health solutions, as well as I mentioned before, LLM for private space missions. And one of my favorite projects for sure is working with Astro Access, which was the first inaugural zero-G flight for disabled astronauts, to test different tools for them to actually thrive in space, because according to the European Space Agency, we will have more and more disabled astronauts too. They just had the first ever disabled astronaut going to space, and that's going to be grow and grow more, because we want to have diversified backgrounds. And so you probably heard of different companies such as SOM and Foster & Partners. They have interesting projects in space architecture for the last few years, and they really drove a lot of attention, has been great PR stunt, but the thing is, it's changing so drastically right now. So besides just having it as a part of your PR package, working in space architecture is becoming more of a strategic positioning. We have this amazing opportunity coming up as of right now. And there's three market forces that happened in the last few years that driving that change. We have NASA's commercial transition. There's going to be around $11 billion in contracts as the ISS retires. So for the context, the ISS is going to be decommissioned by 2030, and there's has been competition in who is going to replace that station. And there's going to be not just one space station, but multiple private space stations. We also have private sector revolution. There's $21 billion commercial space station and lunar infrastructure projects. As you probably heard, there's missions like Gateway, there's missions like Artemis that's sending humans back to the moon. But at this time, we're not going to just have the flags and leave. It's going to be more about commercial economic development of permanent settlement on the moon. And moon is also used as the test bed for future Mars missions. We also have, of course, the terrestrial innovation transfer. We have $20 billion competitive advantages for conventional projects. The thing is, there's only 12% of top architecture and engineering companies that really position for this opportunity. So as I mentioned before, there's good numbers, really exciting. McKinsey and other companies like to talk about these big numbers. I try to be more practical and focus on what exactly you can gather from those contracts and these opportunities. The industry is projected to grow by $1.8 trillion, and it's much, much larger than the semiconductor industry. We also have, as I mentioned before, NASA Artemis program that is looking into growing more settlements on the moon, and $8 billion commercial economy in low Earth orbit driven by future space stations. And probably the most exciting part of the market is the Fortune 500 spin-offs. It's estimated to be $23 billion a year. And for now, so it's important to really understand the moment with all this drive, with all this competitiveness, because we have multiple commercial space stations, companies building their own capability. We have different countries going back to kind of the Cold War situation where you have to really have that capability to take over that economy, that space, literally the space, and become the first mover and stay there. And I believe that space architecture decisions today will determine competitive positioning for decades, or even millennials. Like, who knows? So here's the good example. You probably heard the company called AECOM. They're a company based in Austin, Texas, founded in 2017, and they are developing technologies for 3D printing of residential homes. And they recently, in 2022, they won this grant from NASA, which is a $57 million grant for developing launch pads on the moon. And that really shows you that if you have a terrestrial capability and you've been around for some time, and if you can show that you have that expertise, then NASA would like to work with you. And another example is Foster's and Partners. So as I mentioned before, Foster's Partners, they've been developing space architecture capabilities for a while, and they started more as a human factors integrator, someone who is helping ESA, European Space Agency, and NASA, more like consultancy basis. And then as the partnership grew, they had more and more influence on the market, and now they have a $45 million contract. So designing industry environments is very interesting because space is really the ultimate testing ground for architecture principles. Space architecture principles developed under extreme constraints such as microgravity environment, radiation protection, and such. Those constraints are driving innovation for Earth-based architectural needs. So let's talk about competitive tender landscape, which is very, very important for this audience, right? We have multiple key procurement vehicles. Again, there's way more than I'm showing on the screen right here. NASA has been one of the active players in the market. Emirates has been involved too in industry projects. So here on the screen you see Artemis missions, Lunar Gateway construction. So for each procurement vehicle, there are opportunities. And the key differentiators for companies, if they wanted to join those opportunities, is you have to have technical capability to deliver on those projects, and it's more about delivering on those projects versus the cost of that delivery. So NASA is able to pay the premium for technical capability versus, if you can deliver on the project more affordably, right? Of course, past performances. So if you've been around as a terrestrial company, you've been around for 20, 30, 40 years, it helps out tremendously. And they also focus on multi-phase development approaches with milestone payments. So again, it's great if you've been around and you have internal budgets, versus if you're a smaller company, try to enter the market, it's much, much harder. And interestingly enough, IP rights are they're really central in the structure of those opportunities. So again, there's many technical terms and many things you need to have as a company in order to compete for those opportunities and RFPs. I'll just really briefly tell you about them. So there's human systems integration. It's the Bible for any human designs, human spaceflight designs in the space industry. And not only knowing those standards, but also being able to apply them is just critical. And environmental control and life support systems integration. So again, there's plenty of handbooks, and you have to know not only know all the standards, but know how to apply them. And radiation protection strategies, behavioral health and performance. So like knowing that helps you tremendously. And strategy and mission assurance. So again, there's many letters right here. I don't want to bore you with that, but basically, so this is the technical capability you should have. But I think also the biggest opportunity lies within transferable skills. So if you have BEAM and digital twin capabilities internally, this is really, really helpful. Like NASA and other agencies and private companies would love to see that. And systems engineering, so it's very also transferable. Sustainable design, of course, packing for the moon and Mars it has to be very, very sustainable, meaning, you want to use the less resources, the better. And interior configuration, so human-centered design optimization. So the key timelines. We have, so NASA Commercial Lead Destination. So this is the program that is probably the most crucial right now for human spaceflight. That is focused on building the next space stations. And it's been released a few years ago by NASA, and they have 4 companies that got around $100 million each to develop their own capability. This year, they're having one of the design stages being completed. And so this is the critical entry window for companies to be perhaps consultants first, and then as you grow that relationship with NASA and other agencies, you then continue working with them. And so we expect that by 2030, we'll have operational phase. So if you enter the market right now, I mean, that's pretty much the best time to enter that market. And so the Artemis mission is also interesting. Oops. So for Artemis mission right now, what's getting decided is the roadmap. So last year, Washington, D.C. has decided on the roadmap pretty much, and now we're focusing on the surface habitat concept development. And this is also the time for you to get involved. And it's mainly, there's been a lot of work done on the policy, and as you know, policy drives many decisions. And we will have detailed design phase in 2027, 2029, and then the construction and deployment will happen by the year 2032. And as I mentioned, commercial space stations, there's a company like Axiom Space. They're now also looking for external suppliers to help out because they really have a tight competition with other companies, such as Blue Origin, Orbital Reef, Sirius Space company. And the average project duration is, so the concept stage to, PDR, preliminary design stage is 6 to 12 months. From PDR to CDR, meaning critical design review, is around 9 to 18 months. So basically, if you enter now, it's still quite delayed for these processes to happen. And we will have manufacturing and integration within 18 to 24 months. So practical steps. So if you decide, if you already have that thought, well, maybe we should try it out, maybe that's where we can diversify our expertise and extend the presence, perhaps, that makes sense, is we will have, the first step to take is strategic positioning. You can identify transferable skills, transferable capabilities from your firm terrestrial projects. and detect targeted, so figure out the targeted capabilities you want to extend on. If it's, say, digital twins, that's where you want to focus on that, then you can provide that capability for other companies. And the next step is opportunity targeting, monitoring NASA's acquisition forecast. So NASA has a 5-year acquisition forecast, which is honestly really amazing because you can see how much, what's the size of each opportunity that they're looking for. And they're starting from like $200,000 to, the biggest one I saw was $120 million. So if you monitor that and you anticipate applying, then that's the way to do it. And we have, the next one is tracking commercial space station, deliverable supply opportunities. Anyway, so there's many technical details that get into tender response strategy. If you're interested to learn more, you can request, you can come to me and ask, but also request the slides afterwards. I'm happy to send it to the attendees. So my company, we started as an R&D studio for human spaceflight technologies. We've been developing many technologies in-house, such as the ones I mentioned, so autonomous decision-making for astronauts, as well as sleeping enclosures, as well as private enclosures for astronauts. And we really find the value of actually consulting larger companies on commercial strategies on entering that market. And we focus on mapping on those opportunities, focusing on NASA Artemis projects, as well as commercial destinations, to figure out which is the right for you. And we have competitive positioning. So again, even though you have the capability in-house, it doesn't mean you should apply, because you want to be really, really differentiated from the competition, understand your strengths and weaknesses, and only just play on your strengths. And so we have also human performance optimization. We help companies to quantify how habitats design choices affect cognitive function, operational metrics, and mission success factors. And so basically our main service is we provide specialized expertise for NASA and commercial space requests for proposals, design optimization for human space flight, and joint proposal development. And we help firms to enhance their existing capabilities without requiring internal capabilities to be developed. And here's so it's been a while that we've been working on this project. It's been almost like 6 years that I started the company. And we recently released this brief that has the most essential information that you can't find anywhere else. As someone who works in the industry for quite some time, know inside out of that industry. This is pretty much insider's knowledge of what's happening, and it's only exclusive for attendees of Future of Architecture Summit. So feel free to download it. Let me know what you think. I'm happy to chat. I'm going to be outside after. Not this presentation, we're going to have a conversation with Paul. So after that, you can find me right there. And I'm ready to take your questions. Thank you so much for your attention. I really, really appreciate you. And, I just want to iterate that this is probably really the most exciting time in human history. Again, I never lived before, but I'm pretty sure you've been also excited like me in AI developments, as well as this newer emerging opportunities. And for me, I feel space architecture is almost like the obvious, something that we ought to pursue as humanity. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you.